Okay, so in the previous video, we talked about how to set up SmartView, and we talked about our parent members and our default alias. So now we're going to talk about our data storage properties and our consolidation operators and everything else we have to type into the different dimensions. First of all, we're going to look at the account dimension. So this dimension is going to consist of our net income values, our revenue, our expenses, our merit dollars, which is something that was added in later, and our assumptions, which include tax rates, average salaries, and whatnot. It depends on what you'll be working on. So first of all, let's look at our data storage operators. It'll most of the time be the same across the board for the different blocks that you have. So if you press the drop down menu, you see we have different data storage operators. So starting off with store, what it does is just stores the data value with the number. Then we have dynamic calc and store, which it does not calculate the data value until a user requests it, but stores the data value immediately after the retrieval. Then we have just dynamic calc, which is do not calculate the data value until user requests it and then discard the data value. Then we have never share, which do not allow the member to be shared implicitly, which means inside of the block. Then we have label only, which creates members for navigation and grouping. These members usually won't make sense for a logical consolidation standpoint, so it'll mainly be just a name to put something underneath. And then we have shared member, or shared, which shares data between two or more members. So it shares within the block between two or more members, which we'll look at a little bit later. So those are our data storage properties. We'll move on to our consolidation operators. So right here we have our consolidation operators. And what these do, if we look at them, we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, percent, ignore, never, and not used for this plan type. So what the consolidation operator does is it when the block or when the dimension is saved, it consolidates up into the block. So it consolidates everything that we have in the smallest hierarchy. So our level 0, our revenue, or our frozen goods revenue, our home goods revenue, whatever. It consolidates up into our revenue. So if we have it at addition, it adds up in. If we have it at multiplication, it multiplies up in, and so on and so forth. So we have ignore here, for example, under calendar days because we don't want that being added up higher. We also have data type right here. Pretty self-explanatory. Look at it. We have unspecified currency, non-currency, percentage, smart list, which we'll talk about it later, date, and text. So we have this consolidation operator in our block in our plan 1 block because we'll be using it, so we have an addition, but these values won't be used for these other blocks, so we have them used as not used for this plan type. Then we have two-pass calculation, which we'll talk about later, which we don't need to know now. Smart list, as we said, we will talk about later. It's a drop-down menu. We don't need a smart list right now. Account type, pretty self-explanatory once again. We got expense, revenue, asset, liability, equity, and saved assumption. Variance reporting, so non-expense or expense. Time balance. So how this works is we got flow, which goes at the end of every month. It adds up first of every month, balance at the end of every month, averages, and then fill. You got exchange rate types, which we have no rates. Source plan 1, which is what we're using. The UDA, it is used to find the different members. We'll talk about this later. We have our default formulas. And then all this will not be used right now. All this will be talked about later. So yeah, that's accounts. We'll talk about entity scenarios, periods, and versions as we go.